Mechanical versus HVAC. What is the difference? In this video, I'm going to explain the difference between these two, and I'm going to explain why it's important. I've actually recently come up against this in different regions, different parts of the world. People use different terms, and it's very, very helpful to use the right and most accurate term. So I'm going to explain the difference and broaden our perspective with this and make sure that we are on the same page when we're talking about mechanical or HVAC. So if you're into that, please stay with us on this video. Okay, so this is my jam. So let me tell you a recent story, just to expound a little bit with this. So we are building our first project at Leanbuilt in Phoenix, Arizona. And the folks, the developers in Canada, which we work with quite a bit and help them run their projects, meaning that we're doing consulting with them. That developer will be the developer for our first project in Phoenix. And I'm talking with our folks and being like, let's get on with the mechanical trade, Who's doing mechanical and plumbing? And everybody's looking at me like, what is Jason talking about? Like, there's not just one trade that's doing all of the HVAC and the fire sprinkler piping and the elevators and. So like, everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy. And they're like, what do you mean by mechanical? I'm like, MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, like obviously, right? All of these years being in construction, I had no idea that MEP is more encompassing or more all-encompassing than I thought. Actually, we even sometimes hear MEP F and the F is for fire sprinklers or fire protection, right? But HVAC, piping systems, gas lines, generators, compressors, pumps, and elevators, and anything that's mechanical inside the building. So I used to think it was just like literally HVAC, electrical plumbing, when we talked about MEP. But it turns out it's this much bigger term. So I probably will still be using the term mechanical quite a bit because it just kind of rolls off the tongue. But it's been very, very helpful to understand what this means. And I feel like getting more precise on how we talk is actually a benefit. And if anybody ever asks you the question, you can answer it correctly the first time. What is the difference between mechanical and HVAC? So let's do this. So often these terms are used interchangeably, mechanical and HVAC, but like I said, different people understand them differently. And one of the things that I really hit on or like focused on is, it's okay for me to be just saying MEP and mechanical all the time, but when we're getting down to contracts, when we're being specific, when we're talking about scope, when we're communicating, especially now that we're around the world with different people from different countries whose native languages are not English, I'm like, I'm probably going to get more specific with the language here, right? So they are used interchangeably, but here are the differences. Mechanical is a term that's used broadly for any mechanical systems inside the building, such as movement, heating, cooling, ventilation, and any other system that helps the building function mechanically. Technically falls under the term mechanical. So we're talking about the design, installation, and maintenance of the following systems: heating, ventilation, air conditioning, as well as plumbing, fire protection, and elevators. And like I said, and also piping systems, gas lines, and equipment like generators, compressors, and pumps. Now HVAC, on the other hand, is specifically talking about heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So HVAC. So I do want you to know, every time I say mechanical, I am talking about HVAC. Like I'm talking about heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. But that doesn't really roll off the tongue. It's not like HVAC, EPF is like a good term when we talk about rough end. I'll probably still use the term MEP, but that's really what I'm talking about. The heating, ventilation, and air conditioning contractor will be responsible, obviously, for duct, for equipment. They will hire out the controls cabling. They will be responsible for hydronic piping for those systems, the setting of air handlers. You get the idea. So that's what I'm talking about when I say mechanical, when I say MEP. Things like elevators, they're broken out. Plumbing, it's broken out. Any of these other systems are like literally broken out. The civil work, it's broken out. These are all different scopes under a different schedule of values with a different trade partner with a different spec section. So I'm specifically talking about heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. HVAC is the specific design and control of a building's temperature, humidity, and air quality to create a comfortable environment. HVAC is typically a subset of the overall mechanical systems and is a part of the broader mechanical function of the overall building. So once again, like that is what I'm talking about, because I'm specifically talking about the contractor that will interface with the controls contractor, with the plumbing contractor, and with the electrical contractor. Again, things like elevators, fire protection, plumbing, those are all separate. So mechanical is a broader term, and HVAC is very specific to one scope of work. And so I hope that little definition was helpful for you. Let me tell you why this is important, right? The key for running a project is you must have your driving contractors properly coordinated, properly planned. The work package and the installation work package have to be super detailed, ready to go. And you've got to have a good contractor, like everybody's good, but a high-performing contractor, okay, that can really take care of your project, because you have a couple of driving scopes. The first driving scope on a project site is the concrete and foundations plus the superstructure, so it would be concrete and steel. And then you have framing and mechanical, or HVAC, electrical and plumbing. Those are main drivers. That every time that I am a part of a pull plan or the creation of a production plan on a project site, and we see that, maybe from your perspective it would be this way, but we see that train of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, or HVAC, electrical, and plumbing taking the most amount of time. Typically we have to really get good at packaging them. We have to employ zone transitions where maybe the mechanical contractor needs 3 or 4 different wagons, meaning they're working in one zone in like 3 or 4 different tack times, and then they transition to another zone, and they'll typically have an overlap. There typically are bottleneck trades. That doesn't mean that they're bad. That doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong. That doesn't mean they're incompetent. It means that their work is complex, and so we always must optimize them. And so the focus of a general contractor, or let's just say the wider project team, on optimizing HVAC, electrical and plumbing contractors, or the MEP scopes, is very important, because they are typically your pace setters, right? You'll have other trades like, let's say for instance, flooring or cabinets, that could be pace setters in the finishes as well, but these are very important. And the reason that I really want this to be clear in our minds is because we do want early on coordination from our structural trades, our HVAC trades, our plumbing trades, our electrical trades, elevators, and fire sprinkler. Typically this isn't very complex, but we need to fit them in, like let's say in a concrete structure, like either during or right after reshore removal, or basically the time that reshores were in on the concrete structure. And so they're very important. We need to isolate those trades, get a great trade partner, make sure their scope is complete. And in fact, as the pace setters, I will go through a production plan early on and make sure that they are identified with labor counts as well, so that we can make sure that that's all leveled and it's all tied together, again, with that diagonal trade flow. So it's very important. Mechanical is a broader term. It's encompassing all mechanical functions in the building. HVAC is very specific, and it is important because they are one of the pace setting trades. And so I really hope that this has been helpful. I hope it helps us to discuss this issue with other people. I hope it helps us to write better and more precise contracts when you do have to be very specific about the language. And I hope that it focuses our minds on the most important things right out of the gate. So I'm going to turn this into a blog post in the description below. If you have any comments or any additions or anything else, please reach out to us in the comments. We love hearing from you and partnering with you. And if you ever want to reach out to me directly, please do so. My contact information is everywhere on the internet. So we really hope that you've enjoyed this video. On we go.